Hi, this is another episode of the Hawkins STEM Chronicles. And this is a series of videos in which we talk to people who are in STEM. Real, honest to God people who, for whatever reason, they're in STEM. And we want to find out why they got into STEM and how they got into STEM and, what they're getting out of it. So I have my friend Femi, and what are you doing with STEM?
So right now, I'm currently an information systems major at UMBC. I'm a junior right now, going into my senior year. It's going to be probably my hardest year. I'm trying to get into either software engineering or cybersecurity. And I have a background in network engineering, so I really have options.
Now, before you go any further, you mentioned a school.
Mm-hmm.
Spell it out.
UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Okay. And that's not to be confused with University of Maryland, College Park.
Yeah.
More on University of Maryland, Baltimore County later.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've got a family connection there, but that's neither here nor there. So with all the things that you're interested in, how did you get interested in pursuing what you're doing at school?
So it started before high school. It started before around middle school, really. I remember I didn't really growing up. My first phone was an iPhone 4. Well, my first real phone was an iPhone 4, and so I had cracked my phone, and I told my brother to fix it because my brother knew how to fix it.
Uh-huh.
And so essentially, he was like, "I don't really want to do it. You figure out how to do it yourself." Just go on YouTube, search it up, and then, buy the screen and do it yourself. So I said, okay, and then I ended up doing it. And then I broke it again, and then I was doing it again. And then it became a recurring thing with some of my other phones later on. But eventually in high school, I ended up being in the IT academy at Duval. And so through there, I had connections, and I got 3 certifications. I had I had 2 MTA certifications and 1 Cisco certification.
Now, when you say MTA, what does that mean?
Microsoft Technology Associate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Cisco, of course, that's another company.
Yeah.
So now you were in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and you got those 2 certifications.
Mm-hmm.
So with those certifications, what does that allow you to do?
Well, the MTA, the Microsoft Technology Associate certifications, they're more like basic entry level, and so you would need to get a couple more certifications if you want to get a pretty good job or even a mediocre job in tech. However, with the Cisco certification, that would land me in if I actually pursued that area, which was I got the Cisco routing is CCT, routing and switching, which is Cisco Certified Technician Routing and Switching. And so if I had pursued that to the fullest extent, right now I would probably be working at a job that would pay me around $70K a year.
Okay.
And that would be good, but I got schooled. So
Right.
that's just out the way.
So let's back up a little bit, because you said something. What with those certifications? And let's say if somebody dropped a bunch of tech right in front of you, what would you do with what it is you've learned? What would you be able to do?
Well,
and talk like you're talking to people who don't know anything at all about tech.
About tech. It depends what you drop in front of me. I have a pretty good knowledge and basic understanding of electronics itself. So network engineering is pretty easy when it comes to me in certain areas. However, for other people, it could be harder. Now, if you brought a router and a switch, and you say I should hook it up to a network,
Okay.
right? So let's say the house Wi-Fi is connected is a network, and you want to have a switch and a router connected to it. I can link those two to the network, and you'll be able to use it.
Okay. So in other words, you're learning something that's useful.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to go back to just for a little bit. Anyway, so many questions I want to ask you. I want to ask you about your brother and his phone, because that's actually pretty historical. But so in school, have you run into any problems?
Yeah, of course. Who
What kind?
hasn't? Grades,
Okay.
Teachers just trying to not let me get my A's. It's just run-of-the-mill stuff every college student has experienced, in my opinion. I feel like it's nothing that you can't overcome, nothing that's too hard, but it's still like the petty stuff that throws you off the most.
Who do you go to? Like, if you ran into, like, was there a time when you took a class and there was something that you didn't understand?
Oh, plenty of times.
Tell me about one.
Okay, so when I first got into UMBC, before I was at UMBC, I was at UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore.
Oh.
And I had transferred from there to UMBC.
Mm-hmm.
Now at UMBC, I took Computer Science 201.
Okay.
At that time, I didn't really have I had zero experience in coding. So we were learning Python, and I didn't know what to do, And I learned the basics through the class, of course.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, we got to a project. The project was hard. It was some components that I didn't understand at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, I could probably just do it like in 30 minutes.
Why?
Experience. Knowledge.
Okay, all right, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So in other words, what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that you ran into a problem, but you kept trying it.
Of course.
Now, who did you go to get your help?
My peers, my friends.
Okay, so tell me about some of your friends. Like, how many people do you study with?
Ooh. I personally like to study on my own.
Okay.
Unless it's a project, and for example, for the computer science class, if it's a project like that, I gotta have my friends with me.
Okay.
It's probably about 3, 4, 5 of us. Sometimes it can be more, sometimes it can be less. It just varies on whoever's available at the time. But usually we try to, if we're not all together at once doing it, we'll still talk about the code together and see like, oh, how could so we had to make a blackjack game, right?
Uh-huh.
So we had to add certain elements to the game that's outside of a normal blackjack game.
Okay.
And so I would ask them, oh, so how are you able to add an extra deck of cards to the code while still running, like if I gave somebody the option, if you want to add an extra deck while already playing the game. So it's different, but it makes sense.
Okay.
And so I would have to ask them questions like that. They would ask me questions, and we go back and forth on it. We wouldn't always be in person.
Were there friends that you made because of what you're doing?
They were actually the first friends I had at UMBC.
Okay.
So going to UMBC, I knew nobody there. I knew probably 3 people max.
Okay.
And they were people that is from childhood.
Uh-huh.
And so when I met them, we actually connected in the weirdest of ways.
Okay.
We was at the one of the friends were at the gym, and he was just loud. Like he just had a very loud and wide voice, and so everybody would hear him. And so we were joking around, we were talking, and we just clicked. And then he introduced me to his friend group, and straight after that, we all clicked all together.
So in other words, you wouldn't have had these friends had you not been in STEM.
Oh, indeed.
Okay, all right, that's really important. Now, when you say when you're studying, you study on your own. How do you break things apart to study?
It depends what I'm studying for. If
Okay.
I'm studying for, let's see, well, what's the most recent class I've taken? Let's read it. The last recent class I've had was statistics. So with statistics, it's all about percentages, numbers, probability,
Yes.
things like that. And so if I really want to study to understand what I'm reading or what I'm learning, I would have to essentially break my thinking pattern. That's what I try to do a lot. I try to break my thinking pattern. So
Now, what do you mean by that?
what I mean is, if I usually think a certain way. Everybody always thinks they're a certain way. However, in order to understand the full scope of a problem, you have to go and think outside the box. In order to think outside the box, you have to break the way that you think.
Okay.
And so that's what I would usually try to do. It wouldn't always work, but it's like a game of chess. In order to win, you can't just keep doing the same moves over and over again.
Right.
You have to switch it up. In order to switch it up, you have to try something new. You have to just do something. And that's what I did, essentially.
Okay, all right. So how much time do you have before you graduate?
This should be my last year.
Okay, so in September it'll be your last year.
No, this upcoming semester will be my second to last semester. I'll be graduating around May 2025.
Okay. So Yeah, so in other words, your classes will start. Your
Oh yeah,
upcoming-
in September. Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
well,
You're right.
August, September, whenever.
Same thing.
So you got one more year.
Mm-hmm.
What are your plans after you graduate? Have you gotten that far in your thinking?
Not really. I have options,
Okay.
but I don't know which ones to take. I have I've thought about pursuing a master's in cybersecurity.
Okay.
However, that's 2 extra years and extra money. I've thought about getting a cybersecurity certificate in information systems, but that's that's about an extra semester or an extra year, depending on how I level my classes, and that's also extra money. Or I could just graduate, try to find a job, go apply to internships, and just like explore the world of STEM.
Okay.
And that's the easiest thing to do, but it's not as guaranteed for a job as the others are.
Okay. Well, Femi and I are probably going to be getting together to do more interviews in the future, because you brought up a lot of really great topics and a lot of things we want to explore. But the most important thing is that he is a real live person, everyday person. He's got all kind of things going on, but because of his interests. And before we close out, let me go back to one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You said your brother broke his phone.
I broke my phone.
Okay, all
Well,
right.
I mean, he broke his phone. He fixed his phone.
Uh-huh.
I knew that he could fix phones because he fixed his phone. I broke my phone. I asked him to fix my phone. Now, he said no.
Uh-huh.
So he said, fix it yourself. And I didn't know what to do. He said, all right, go on YouTube, search it up, figure it out. Simple as that. That's what I did.
I'm doing a video tomorrow about a man named Benjamin Banneker.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of his gave him a watch.
Mm-hmm.
He took the watch apart, put it back together again. Took the watch apart, put it back together again.
Mm-hmm.
Took the watch apart, put it back together again, but made drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was all over, he built his own clock.
Wow.
Not a watch. He built the first chiming clock in the continental United States.
Wow.
So, what you're saying about the trial and error, about something being broken,
Yeah.
about trying to fix it, that could very well be one of the basics of STEM.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to sign off again, folks. If you're watching this, I got my good friend here. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, because there's more coming down the pike. Again, thank you.